Talk. Yeah, I'm gonna delete.
Come on in.
All right.
We about to get started, y'all.
All right.
Hey, we gonna be all right.
Mhm.
We gonna be all right.
I can't hear it.
Can y'all hear that music? I hope y'all can hear that music. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Maybe they can hear it,
But I can't.
maybe they can't. They just need to know we gonna be all right. We're gonna come here every Monday, 7:30. Think outside the
I
red
think
box.
we're having a
We're
little
coming
technical
at you.
difficulties.
We're coming at you. And we're here to encourage, motivate, inspire, push, teach, instruct, whatever it is that we've got to do to get you to the next level. And my co-host, Dion Coates, is having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to just keep this thing rolling until she can get into the groove. But today, the topic is the enabler. The enabler. So we're going to talk about those enabling behaviors that cause our loved ones to, that hinders our loved ones, I'm sorry, but it causes them not to grow, causes them not to learn, it causes them to be stuck. And with our great intentions, we have great intentions, but sometimes our intentions can cause our loved ones to be stuck in their existing state and not growing to be in their being and going from level to level. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm so excited to be here. And I'm just going to get started without her. I'm sorry, I'm just going to get started without her, but it's better when you have someone to talk to. So let's just start with a definition. Enabler. What is an enabler? An enabler is someone whose behavior allows a loved one to continue self-destructive patterns of behavior. So that's an enabler. And so when I say self-destructive, I mean, what's the first thing that you think of?
Sabotage.
Hey, uh-oh, we got her in. Hey,
Hey,
Dion.
Cephas.
So
Hey, finally.
self-destructive. What is the first thing that comes to mind, okay, when you say self-destructive? When I first looked up the definition of enabler, of course, everything that comes up, they talk about substance abuse, right? Drug abuse, alcohol abuse. We can think of it as maybe someone who's promiscuous. Um, Then I also think juvenile delinquency, right? Someone whose behaviors are harmful to them that's going to either land them in jail or dead. That's what I think of self-destructive behaviors. Dion, what do you think of when you hear self-destructive?
You're absolutely right. I think about sabotage. I think about, like you said, drugs, or think about somebody just being emotionally um, distraught that they continue to do things to self sabotage. So sabotage would be my word.
Cool. So that's funny. I wrote that down. Um, so what about, you got the self-sabotaging behaviors, you have irrational behaviors, aggressive behaviors, just negative behaviors that our family members may display. And they're problematic to your mental and emotional well-being. So when we're talking about enabler tonight, we're going to go in the realm of someone's being. We're not talking about the drugs and the alcohol and the harmful behaviors like sexing and prostitution and just, doing all kind of crazy stuff. We're going to strictly stick with the being. Okay. And so when you are an enabler of someone growing into who they were created to be, that's what we're going to get into tonight. Um, and there's signs, people. There's signs that people are not emotionally healthy. And that does depend on how frequent they practice these negative behaviors. But what are we doing? Okay. Because sometimes we don't mean any harm. We have the best intentions for our loved ones, but sometimes even the best intentions can go wrong and stunt someone's growth. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, Dion, what's on your mind?
Just thinking about people in their lives and thinking about life and how things in your past sometimes project your future. I'm thinking about a story that my mother was a enabler. Now I know we're not
Hmm.
going to talk about alcohol or drugs, and and
Well, if
and
we have
I
to go
cover.
there with your story, then, hey.
Yeah. But my father was an alcoholic for many years. Later on in life, he got himself together and he didn't drink, but he was a very well functioning alcoholic. But his thing was he was going to come for me no matter what. It didn't
Mm,
matter what happened. He was going to make sure he was going to get a rise out of me, or he was going to say something to mom that was going to get a rise one way or another. So he knew exactly what to do. So she would try to prepare me when she knew he was coming in. And she was like, Dion, don't do this, that, and the third, because all that's going to do is make him mad. And, don't do this. And she was trying to prepare me so that I wouldn't say anything or whatever. But he would do stuff like I would. My brothers were. I had twin brothers, and they would follow each other to different rooms. So a lot of times they would come in the room with me and my sister and spend the night. They camp in there with us, and she and I only had a full bed. So a lot of times I would sleep on the sofa because it was crowded. So when he would come in and he would see me on the sofa, that was a trigger for him. So she would just like start, fussing at me like, I told you not to sleep on the sofa, like she was agreeing with what he said, knowing that I had two twins in the bed with us and all of us couldn't fit in the bed together. So I felt like she enabled him to he is, and it would just be like, and I'm not cursing, I'm just saying all hell would break loose. He would come for me. We would be like fighting. I mean, like throwing down, fighting. Who fights their dad? That's crazy. Who does that? But I
mhm,
just felt like the alcohol was controlling him. And I felt like she just allowed it to happen. And she enabled him for many years. Now, later on in life, he apologized because he recognized what he did was wrong. But think about the scarring and stuff that it does to people when you enable them and you let them do things and then later on in life, they have to say they're sorry, but then you carry the baggage of it. Let's talk about that.
let's talk about it.
I think we're having some technical difficulties, Angelina.
Yeah, Dion's having technical difficulties again, so I'm just going to take it from there. So, as her story says that her mother was enabling the behavior of her father to mistreat her, but sometimes we can again have the best of intentions for our children, for our spouses, for our co-workers, right? And we allow them to stay in the negative patterns of behaviors, right? And it's not good for them. And so my apostle preached last Sunday, not this past Sunday, the Sunday before, and he was talking about pride. And in this sermon, he was talking about how us women sometimes enable. He didn't say the word enable, but that's basically what he was saying, is that we enable and we do things to make things work. We clean it up, we fix it. We sometimes we say men are fixers, but sometimes us women can be fixers, right? And that better, Dion?
That's pretty bad.
Okay, we can hear you now. So I'm having conversations and I'm thinking about what he said, and some things are coming to me, and having thinking about my family and having some conversations with different family members, and I'm realizing that even though I had the best of intentions for my family, I'm an enabler. And so me always trying to fix it, or that takeover spirit, because I feel like, okay, so I know I've been through this, so just let me do it kind of thing. And that hinders them from growing in their being, right? Everybody has to have their own testimony. Everybody has to have their own lessons that they learn. Sometimes we can learn from others, but sometimes we just got to go through some things ourselves. And what I was trying to do was, oh, let me spare you. You know, you don't have to go through this, but some things they have to go through because it's a learning experience that helps them get stronger. It's a learning experience that helps them grow. Um, and if you're always doing for your family, when do they learn to do for themselves? Right? You got to let your children grow. You got to let them discover. You got to let them search so that they can discover who they are. I mean, you as a parent, you still want to guide them, but they have to be able to discover who they are, and grow into who they are, because they're going to have some attributes of you, some attributes of the other parent, but they still are going to be who they are. And so I was beginning to see how sometimes I don't always let my children come into their being. And yes, Bridget, sometimes it's easier to do it for them. It is, but sometimes we got to step back and say, okay, what should I do for them? And what should I let them do on their own? Because I always think about, there's I watch a lot of reality TV shows, and you have these famous parents. One in particular, Ti. When I'm watching his show with his children, he's making them work for it, right? And he's making them have to do certain things. He's not putting up no money till you show me this, that, and the third, and you got to go for some things on your own. And I say to myself, well, isn't that why, as parents, we become successful and we work on some things so that we can pave the way and make it easier for our children? We can have some doors open for them, right? But in reality, opening all doors for them is not always a good thing. Some things they need to work for. Some things they need to learn on their own. Hello, everyone. Hello. So while we may have the good intentions that I have this, so I'm going to give it to my kids, everything, I work for this, so you wouldn't have to work for it. No, sometimes our children need to work for some things. Sometimes they need to work for some things. And I also discovered that, and even when it comes to marriage, we as wives, we're so groomed to do certain things and be that support person, be that encourager, and then we just want to do everything for our husbands, when in reality, some things, as Apostle said, you need to, ladies, sometimes we got to just let it fall apart. We just got to let it fall apart. Um, and let them see what they're going to do. How are they ever going to sharpen their skills? How are they ever going to come into their being? How are they ever going to grow if you're doing everything for them and they don't get a chance to learn and discover on their own? Bridget, I think is Bridget says, I struggle with when to enable and when not to. And honey, I think that is how can I say this? Trial and error. It's trial and error. So it's got to be one of those things that as you keep on, not enabling is going to have to be a skill. So as you keep on practicing it, you'll get better at it, right? and there's, but it's really going to depend on you and your child, right? I have a child who fights against me enabling. So then it's easier for me to sit back and say, all right, I'm gonna let this one go. You don't want to listen. You don't want to hear me, Angelina. Maybe you need to biz back off, kind of thing. So sometimes I think it's just going to depend on your child, because you can have a child that you're giving everything to, and they're so appreciative. They're so grateful. They appreciate the lessons. They do it. They do what you need to do, and it's not a bad thing. And then you have that child where you're doing all those things, and it turns out to be a bad thing. That's why I say we can have the best of intentions and it still go wrong. Dion, we can hear you. What you got to say? I just skipped over because you was having technical difficulties.
I know. It's so true. We can have the best intentions for our children, and things can go so wrong. Sometimes we just need to step back. Tough love is hard.
It
Tough
is.
love is hard, but you have to apply tough love, especially when you know the kid. I think what we do is we make excuses because we don't want it to speak to our parenting. We don't want it to feel like, oh, I failed as a parent, because sometimes our wayward
Mhm.
children act up. So instead of dealing with the issues and getting the help that we need, we enable them, which allows them to continue to act disruptive and sometimes not pleasant to be around. So sometimes we have to stop enabling. We have to administer some tough love and pull back on all that giving. It's okay. They're not going to die. I remember growing up and not having anything. We just had the things that were outside in nature. We played with dirt and built things with cardboard and sticks and everything. And we had full-fledged stores, and I was a tomboy, so we would build a store. We'd go get some wood and some bricks and build stuff and imagine. Our imagination was fluent. We would imagine we had a big old store with all kind of stuff in it, and we would use rocks as coins and different things, leaves as dollars. So I think our children's imaginations are tainted by some of the things that we do, so much giving and everything. And no parents that you're not bad parents and that you do the best that you can. And if it's something that you need some help on, get some help. It's okay to get help and to ask for help. I think a lot of times we don't ask for help because we don't want it to seem like we're not doing a good job, when in fact we need some help. Some of us are not learned. We don't. We haven't had good parents. Some of us have, and some of us haven't. So we haven't had good examples to follow behind. So we're making rules along as we go along in life. So if you need some help, reach out.
Yep. So what you just said, Bridget had said, I feel like we are raised to be that way. And Dion, you always say you produce who you are, right? And
That's who
so
you are.
we're raised to be enablers. We're raised to just kind of be sometimes a little overprotective. But I think one thing for sure is to ask yourself, um, how to teach independence. Is this something that can teach them independence versus I really need to guide and help my child to a certain point and then I can let them go. So we had another comment which I can really relate to. Elaine said that she learned the hard way when she was diagnosed with cancer and her husband was lost because um, she had always done everything. And so I say that to
Mm,
myself too. So if I die tomorrow, what you gonna do? That's
mm,
always, if I die tomorrow, what are you gonna do? And that's when I started to realize that, it's not that you don't want to do for your family. And people out there realize I'm not telling you not to do for your family, your friends, or whomever, but sometimes we can overdo it, not allowing them to participate, not allowing them to give feedback, not allowing them to grow and learn some things. They're not learning anything because you're doing everything. And so what happens, it's like we want them to depend on us, we want them to need us. And that's, yeah, we all want to be wanted and needed, but not to the point where our friends and family can't function on their own. They can't make decisions on their own. They can't look for things on their own. They're asking you for everything. Um, my mother's here. Hey, mother. She says you have to know your
Hey, Miss
children.
Janet.
Yes, you. Too bad you're not on here because I would ask you, how did you do that with us? I do think that my mom um, really taught us, my mom and my father really taught us how to be um, independent, but then my mom still did a lot of things. She really did still, and she still does do a lot of things for us. But I think that for me, I did learn how to do some things on my own, but sometimes I think some of that was just who I am. Like that's just my makeup because I love to learn, I love to explore, I love to discover, love to get to learn new things. And so even though my mom did a lot of things for us, I mean, my mom, she cooked dinner every day, the grocery shopping, um, the budget. I mean, she did everything. And so there were some things that you didn't teach us, mom. You did not teach us, but I still learned it, right? So you can produce who you are sometimes. Here, we're going to see if we get Dion back again. So Bridget says we wonder why, as wives, mothers, daughters, and girlfriends, why we are so. Oh my God, Bridget, if you ain't said tonight. And we wonder why we are so tired because we don't learn how to delegate. Okay. We don't learn how to delegate. And I have been married for almost 3 years and it's a blended family. And I remember when we first all came together, I was trying to be Wonder Woman and it was just too much. And I had to start learning to delegate. I had to start learning to back up. I can't do all of this. Y'all are gonna have to learn how to do some of this stuff. Um, y'all gonna have to learn how to cook. Y'all gonna have to learn how to clean. Y'all gonna have to learn how to do some laundry. Like it's 5 of us in this house now. I can't do it all. So yeah, enablers. We've gotta let go, let God. So let's switch it up a little bit because we're at 7:53. Let me switch it up a little bit. So we can also be enablers with our friends and family, right? About those negative behaviors that we talked about earlier, the self-sabotaging behaviors, the aggressive behaviors, the irrational behaviors, and how that's really not good for our being. All right. We see people acting in emotionally unhealthy ways, and we enable them when we allow them to stay and act in those ways. So I kind of wanted to talk about that tonight, right? Because that is one of the ways that we don't allow our friends and family to grow. When we see them going down the wrong path as far as these negative behaviors, but we don't say anything and we don't do anything. And so I wanted to point out some things as to so that we can be aware and talk about what we do to enable, right? How do you know you're an enabler? So what do you do to enable? And so one of those things is not being honest. We're not honest with our loved ones. They act crazy, they act stupid, right? And they come and we don't say we don't even tell them the truth about when they come to us, and we know like why in our minds we're saying, why did you do that? Why did you act like that? But we don't say nothing. We don't tell them anything. What do you think about that, Dion?
Well, a lot of times we try to back away from wars. because a lot of times when you tell the truth, it winds up being a mini war. So sometimes we try to pick our battles instead of being our brother's keeper. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always right, but that does mean that if I see you in error, that I should come to you in love and share with you in love something that you've done or something that you do that's sabotaging or something that you do that I allow you to continue to do that's wrong or say or even be. So we try to avoid wars. We don't want to battle. We don't want to fight. So we just excuse it and we say, oh, that's just her, just him, or that's just them. They just act like that. And we enable them to continue to be the way that they are because we don't want to have the all out war.
Mm, I agree with that. Um, that is an issue on the other side that I won't get into, but we've got to be able to have build conflict resolution skills so that we can approach things the right way in order to resolve those types of things. The next one I have here is cheering it on. We're talking about condoning, supporting, and encouraging self-destructive behaviors. How do we as enablers do that when we see people exhibiting these things? One of them is cheering it on. I mean, how many times have we seen, hopefully no one on here has participated, but how many times have we seen things on TV or maybe even in real life where someone's acting up and the other people are encouraging it. Like they're cheering it on. Yes, go ahead, fight. And, you got him, girl. You said it, whatever, whatever. Like we do that, right? And so um, we cheer people on, but that probably says a lot about the person who's cheering on as well. Um, my mom says, and I think this is to Dion's comment, she says that is because we do not want to harm their feelings. We don't want to harm their feelings. I'm going back now to being honest. We don't want to harm their feelings, but it's harming their being. So at what point do we say, I'm more concerned about you getting healthy than I am about you these negative feelings you have, because we're already acting up. So you say something else, they're just going to act up. But some people don't even realize that they're unhealthy until you say something. And if we don't never say anything, then how are they ever supposed to get healed? But I mean, I agree with
Preach.
you. We don't want to hurt their feelings, but we've got to get to a point where we're more concerned about them growing in their being and being healthy than we are about them getting mad at us telling them the truth. Bridget says, picking battles, saving someone's feelings, not my circus. Not, oh, girl. Yes, we have that bad. Not my circus, not my monkey. Mind my business. Mind my business. But if it's your loved one and you really care about them, why are we minding our business? Aren't they your business? Aren't their growth your business? Felicia Hawkins says people are afraid to be honest because you might have to hear something that's honest about. Ooh, I can't even
Mm,
read it again. People are afraid to be honest because you might have to hear something that's honest about you. Boom. We
mhm.
can probably just end with that right there. I got some more stuff, but we can probably just end with that right there. How many times we avoid conversations because we really don't want stuff about us to come out. We don't want them coming back on us about the things that we do. So we just avoid them conversations. Oh my God, Felicia, that was good. That was a
That was
yeah.
great. That was
Mike,
great.
we're done for the night.
What you say? You dropped the mic,
Drop the mic.
and
We're done for the night.
well, it's so true, Angelina. If you think about it, sometimes we don't want to be emotionally healed because if somebody tells us something about ourselves, guess what? We have two choices. We can continue in the foolishness, or we can change our behavior. Remember, my saying is you teach who you are. So if we're trying to be emotionally healthy, we have to, like Felicia says, if we want to give it can't get too hot in the kitchen. We got to take it sometimes.
And we don't want to take it.
We don't want to do that. We don't want to.
We don't. We don't.
We don't want
It's
to do that.
what's
It's
good
gonna
for the
cost.
goose is
It's gonna
not
cost you
good for the
something.
gander.
Yeah, it's gonna cost. It's gonna cost you something. Because if I speak into your life, and that means that I'm allowing you to speak into mine. So we have those times when we speak into each other's life, and sometimes we say some rough things to each other. But because we respect each other and because we want to be emotionally healed, we can take it, and then we can do it in love and not have to say, "Oh, that Angelina get on my last nerve. She always got something crazy to say." So I don't have to have those feelings or emotions because I know it's coming from a good place. So when you speak into people's lives, you got to be willing to know that the people that speak into your life, hopefully, they're coming from a good place and not be afraid to still say what you need to say. Take what you need, and what's not for you, put it on the shelf. Visit it later if you have to.
Bridget, I put it back up on the screen. I think that's what you were asking me for, what she said. So I'm not even going to be able to get to my list, y'all, but I do have a couple more before we go. All right. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, saving the day, right? That's how we can be an enabler, is we're always trying to be Captain Save a Hope. Can you say that on Facebook?
No,
Well, we always
no, you can't. You can't. No.
I can't. Well, I did. Let's be real about it. We all want to be Captain Saver, and when we need not to be trying to save. And um, we've got to, again, learn to let it fall apart. Learn so that they can learn from their mistakes. Just like you had an opportunity to learn from your mistakes, they need to learn from their mistakes. Oh, Bridget
Angelina, it brings us. Go ahead.
told me to church it up.
Well, and listen, like Apostle Benny said last week, pride. A lot of times we let pride stand in the way of us really being free, and that's the whole goal is to be free emotionally. So we let our pride stand in the way, and then we don't get what we need, and we stay defensive. We stay in that rut, and we're never free. So we need to start getting rid of some of that pride. We need to start dumping some of that pride in the garbage can.
Yeah. So one more, I'm going to put up on the screen, and that is making excuses.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, enable when we make excuses for their behavior and the way they act and the things that they do. Um, and really, there's no excuse other than there's an explanation, but not an excuse. So the explanation is we're emotionally unhealthy, period. We're emotionally unhealthy, but we can't make excuses for them being emotionally unhealthy. We can't enable them to keep continuing to stay in that state of mind and that unhealthiness. Yes, pride is the big monster. And all of this, really, it's pride. The self-sabotaging behaviors, irrational behaviors, aggressive behaviors, excuse me, losing my voice. It all comes back to pride. That's what we've been learning, is it all comes back to pride. So you're exactly right. But we have to stop making excuses for the way they act. Say, well, that's just the way they always are. That's just the way they are. No, that's not the way they was created to be. That's not how they're supposed to be. We should start helping each other get to the next level and grow so that we can walk in our purpose and live life abundantly. And we can't do that if we're always mouth closed and fixing everything and trying to save the day and not being honest with them and ourselves. That's my words. Dion, what's your closing words? What do you have to say?
You know what I gotta say? You are who you are. You teach who you are. We need to learn how to be proactive in what we teach. And if we don't have a skill, learn it. Make sure that we consider our family and friends, and make sure that when we speak into somebody's lives, that we're willing to allow them to speak back into ours, because it's gonna cost you something. So if you don't like who you are and you don't like what you teach, do something, change the way that what you teach. Do something different. Teach something different.
Learn something
Stop,
different. As we said a
stop,
minute ago, so it
right. Stop
yourself.
being an enabler. Stop
Yes.
being an enabler. Stop being an enabler. And stop enabling yourself to be an enabler, because that means that you got some issues too. You an enabler too. So stop allowing yourself,
Mm. We can't
stop
get into
allowing
that
yourself to
tonight.
be an
That's a whole
enabler.
other topic. Because
I
if you're an
know, but
enabler, you got some things that you need to be working on, right? What is that deep roots? How I want to say it, deep rooted thing
deep
that is
seated
causing.
roots.
That's
Mm,
about the deep seated roots that is causing you or allowing you to be an enabler, right? We need to fix that in ourselves. We need to address that so that we don't continue to walk in that behavior. Um, one last comment we have here. If you don't feel good in your mind, body, then get a new one. Work on yourself, change. Exactly, Bridget. That's what this is all about, right? Is about changing, it's about growing, and you gotta work on you. And I think I posted early, when you work on you, your family's lives begin to change, right? Because there's a different you showing up, which causes them to be a different them showing up. And so you got to first work on you. And again, that goes back to why people don't want to say nothing, because you can't be honest with them about them, because then they're gonna come back to you on your stuff, and you don't want to be called on your stuff. You don't want to be called to the red carpet, right? So work on you, so then that you can then work on others, because broken can't fix broken. All right, y'all. We're over time. I'm gonna stop. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here every Monday at 7:30. Thinking outside the red box. We're here to again encourage, inspire, push, drag you, whatever we gotta do to get you to the next level of your being. So continue to tune in. We love you all. We love your participation. Thank you for the comments. We appreciate it so much. You all
mm.
have a great evening. See you next time.
Peace. Peace.